You are watching DHTV from California State University, Dominguez Hills.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the fourth lecture in the CSUDH Presidential Distinguished Lecture Series. This lecture series, established in 2018 by President Thomas A. Parham, brings leading scholars, artists, and influential leaders to share their thoughts and experiences with the Toro community. Prior lectures featured such renowned guests as groundbreaking Olympian Tommy Smith, esteemed California State Attorney General Javier Becerra, and most recently, legendary jazz musician Kenny G. Today, we have the privilege of engaging with extraordinary mixed media visual artist Tony Scott in an intersection of art and music, which will highlight the interconnectedness of visual art and music. Ms. Scott's artistic brilliance will shine brightly as she completes a live painting to the accompaniment of the CSUDH Orchestra, led by acclaimed conductor Charles Dickerson, who will lead the orchestra in a performance of Rhapsody in Blue and Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, while Ms. Scott paints an original piece inspired by the music. Now, though, it is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Devin Suno, a professor of art and design in the Art and Design Department. Professor Suno, who is founding director of Praxis, an extracurricular cross-disciplinary art engagement program at CSUDH, will provide an overview of the exemplary programs and activities of this department. I will now turn the virtual stage over to Professor Suno.
Thank you, Dean Braisley. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. The Art and Design Department at California State University, Dominguez Hills offers rich arts education and programming. Our students have options to study in the areas of art history, design, and studio art, with minors including photography, ceramics, and digital graphics. Our world-class faculty provides support to students in and out of the classroom. The department cultivates rigorous cross-disciplinary programs that prepare students for professional and postgraduate work. Our art historians explore and learn critical thinking skills and visual literacy, preparing them to thrive within our media-saturated culture. Our design students learn state-of-the-art techniques and contact with industry representatives and local businesses for feedback and internships. The studio art option provides foundational knowledge that encourages students to create utilizing the newest technologies with traditional art media. Graduating seniors from design and studio art organize and install their own work in 2 senior exhibitions. We offer amazing opportunities through Praxis, our cutting-edge art engagement program that brings together artists, designers, students, and community members to explore the storylines of South Los Angeles. The program provides hands-on learning opportunities for students, as well as artist residencies, teaching fellowships, and community projects. Through the University Art Gallery, we partner with contemporary artists to support the creation of new, vital, and challenging artworks, and offer programs that reflect our history and deep commitment to social justice. Each year, the gallery presents professional and student exhibitions. Upcoming shows include projects by artists Lauren Halsey, Patrick Martinez, Paul Pescador, and Juan Capistran. CSUDH also brings public artworks to our campus and neighborhood. We recently commissioned an artist to create 8 murals for a new residence hall and are in the process of selecting another artist for a state-of-the-art innovation and instruction building. If you want to learn more about our programs and how you can support the amazing work of our students, please contact us through the information on the slide. Scan this QR code to follow us on Instagram. Again, it's my real pleasure to be here today, and now I would like to turn the program back over to Dean Braisley.
Today's Presidential Distinguished Lecture features a conversation between President Parham, the artist Tony Scott, and music conductor Charles Dickerson. Last fall, the university entered into a strategic partnership with Ms. Scott to include a showcase of her artistic genius and her intellectual contributions to the field. As a campus, we continue to be excited by this generative potential for powerful intellectual and cultural growth that our partnership with Ms. Scott will provide. Along with Ms. Scott, Mr. Charles Dickerson joins President Parham to discuss this intersection of art and music. Mr. Dickerson is a part-time faculty member in the music department and supervisor of special ensembles at CSUDH, while also leading the CSUDH Orchestra. His distinguished career is marked by his outstanding work as executive director and conductor of the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles. Both the art and design and music departments are singularly distinguished by the excellent faculty, gifted students, and noteworthy academic programs which prepare our students to thrive in their artistic and musical pursuits. In this vein, I am delighted to share the news of a substantial gift to the university that will advance the great work already in progress in the music department. Recently, CSUDH's Center for African Diaspora Sacred Music and Musicians received a $1.6 million gift from the Georgia and Nolan Payton Foundation to create an endowment that will support historic and innovative research, preservation, and performance of Negro spirituals. The foundation and the Payton family have been long-term supporters of CSUDH and our African Diaspora Sacred Music and Musicians programs. Over the years, since the early 2000s, they have donated nearly $2.2 million for various projects, some of which include the creation of the Georgia and Nolan Payton Archive of Sacred Music, the Tubman Commission, and the recent exhibit, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? The Sacred Music of the African American Diaspora. We look forward to the continued excellent programs from the center that this endowment will produce. I would like to provide some context to the discussion that will follow today. The synergies that have been created between artistic and musical expressions have been discussed and researched for over several decades. Synesthesia is a term used to capture the experience of people who receive information that is meant to stimulate one of the senses and results in stimulation of several of the senses. Synesthetes often see music as colors when they hear it. For example, the artist Vasily Kandinsky provides an illustrious example of this phenomenon, creating abstract paintings as a visual response to the experience of hearing concert music. Writer Art Chevang helps us to understand this intersection as well, noting that music and art intersect around their composition and rhythm. For example, music has a composition comprised of beats, notes, and tones. Visual arts possess a composition comprised of lines, shapes, and colors. Kandinsky wrote that music has been the art which has devoted itself not to the natural phenomena, but rather to the expression of the artist's soul. Art and music derive from the heart and the soul. Like Kandinsky, Ms. Scott creates abstract artwork that embodies this expression. In the painting session you will see today, Ms. Scott will be painting in an abstract expressionist style, responding to the music intuitively and spiritually. It is my pleasure to now turn the virtual stage over to the 11th President of California State University, Dominguez Hills, Dr. Thomas A. Parham.
Thank you very much, Dean Braisley. And let me begin my remarks by providing a sincere expression of thanks and gratitude to you as the presiding dean, to Professor Suno, one of our all-star faculty, and to the entire team from ceremonies and events and our technical folk, Fidel and Bernie Clinch and others who have worked tirelessly to make sure that we could pull off this Presidential Distinguished Lecture. I come to you from my office at home amid the sights and sounds of the inner city to bring to you just two phenomenal artists. The artist Tony Scott, as Dean Braisley has described to you, is somebody I had a chance to meet a little over a year ago, and just a phenomenal meeting, and so impacted by both the work, but also just the spirit of the woman. And while I was familiar with her work before, meeting the person just helped to really consolidate, I think, all of that into this harmonious energy that is the artist, Tony Scott. Also, we're joined by one of our phenomenal assets to this campus, Charles Dickerson, in addition to his conducting of the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles. He also is our own. And so we don't have to say anything but welcome home and welcome to the stage for Professor Dickerson, who we have the treat of having him work with our own students here on campus. So let me begin by saying, first of all, welcome Tony and welcome Charles.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And so let me start out with just a couple of opening remarks and invite you, Tony, and you, Charles, just to weigh in to the audience about how you're feeling today. It's a glorious day outside. It's a great day to have a Presidential Distinguished Lecture. Let me just kind of tap into the vibe and the rhythm of your spirit in the moment. So Tony, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm so excited about today. There's so much to share, and I've learned so much, and I'm just really grateful to be here, and all those that have supported me to be here. And thank you for this project, and I have more to say about it because it's been tremendous.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing about that. And Charles, how you doing?
Well, Mr. President, I just want to say that, we've been through quite a year over the last year, and we have every reason to be down. But the sun came up today, and thankfully I was able to open my eyes, and I knew that today was going to be an exciting day because I get to interact with you and Tony. And so I'm on cloud nine, sir.
Well, that's a good thing, and I'm glad to hear that. Tony, let me go back to you because one of the reference points that Dean Braisley talked about in her narrative was the MOU that we have signed between you and this university. And talk for us for a moment, for those who haven't heard about that, about what that means to you as an artist and why that's important.
Well, as an artist, there's almost nothing greater than having support, support from the community. They often say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I think, the relationship that with Cal State University Dominguez Hills has just elevated me, and just the support has given not only, a foundation for new growth, but also, great inspiration for the near future. So this is a new opportunity for me, and one that has already, excelled and been inspirational. So it's tremendous.
Well, I'm delighted. And you're exactly right that it does take a village. And so we have to give credit to the village. I want to really thank two people who were instrumental in helping both you and I connect, Tony, as well as to get us to sign that MOU. And that is my youngest daughter, Kenya Parham, who I want to give credit to for that, and our good friend Anna Fusan from Red Sea Entertainment. They have been instrumental in this work, and we wouldn't be where we are right now without their support and intervention. So we thank them both. So let's now see if we can't get into just a couple of questions. So let me start out with you, Tony. In our conversations and email messages that we've exchanged, you've introduced us to African-American abstract artists and the origins of African culture on Western art. And I wonder if you can help our audience connect those dots. How has African culture influenced Western art?
Well, on multiple levels, what's little known is that abstraction really is the foundation for Western new art forms. Artists like Matisse and Kandinsky and Jackson Pollock, these are artists that drew their inspiration from African sculpture, as well as indigenous practices. So I think, things like other forms of art, jazz and bop and swing, all of this has its foundation in African culture, and abstract art is also shares that history.
Yeah, very much so. So what's also true, I think artists often provide a window into their spiritual energy and life force that is reflected in their artistic creations. In a general sense, what do you want the audience to know about you that is reflected in the body of your work that you will present today? So let me start, Tony. What do you want the audience to know about you that's reflected in the art that you'll present today?
Well, that my art is not driven for art's sake. It's driven by my spirituality, and that in every piece that I create, I draw my inspiration from God. I pray in every piece. There's a particular process that I write that I consider spiritual writing and speaking in tongues. So I'd like the audience to know that my work is based in spirituality, and its goal is towards healing, understanding, and also commentary about events that unfortunately injustices as well. But it comes from the heart. That's the most important thing, and it's here to bring healing as well as education.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Charles, what about you? What do you want the audience to know about you that is reflected in that work that you've conducted today, both for the Rhapsody as well as Beethoven's work?
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. President. What I would like the audience to know about me is really just an extension of what happens at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. I seek to instill a degree of excellence within our young people to understand that music, whether regardless of the genre, of course, we're orchestral. I have the privilege of doing a lot of the orchestra work at the school, but there are other genres of music. Our jazz work. We have a strong jazz department within the music department, and other elements of music. We have a strong guitar program at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and what we try to do is instill within the students that come to our campus the excellence that music helps to develop within one, the excellence that comes from continual practice, the excellence that comes from the striving to be your best, to do something over and over again, not just for the sake of doing it well, but doing it perfectly. It is to seek the highest goal that we can, because in so doing, to me, that's worship. Once we seek our highest goal, we're honoring God by offering back the gifts that He's given to us, just like we're going to see with some of Tony's paintings today.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. And so I'm also aware, for both musicians and artists, I know that Maurice White, one of my favorite musicians from Earth, Wind and Fire, used to say that music is the language of the soul. And so I understand that musicians and artists are often perceived as more courageous, what I call truth tellers.
Wow.
About the social context that impact people's lives. And Tony, you referred to that earlier in your remarks today. So what truths do you, right, in your artistic renderings and your musical art forms reveal to the audience today that align with this notion of truth telling? What truth do you want to reveal today? Tony, let me start with you.
Well, the truth that there is a symbiotic relationship between the two mediums, that the truth is, for very long, I've been inspired by music, but this project, very specifically, has really honed into, those experiences and the relationship. I, when I think about the collaboration together, which it is a collaboration, a sincere collaboration, I think, more deeply about how we complement each other and how one and historically has supported and inspired each other. So to just bring it, to a core, it's just the truth and the revelation that these two mediums are really deeply connected.
Hmm.
And Charles, what about you? What's the truth telling you want to be able to do today?
Well, good sir, you referred to Maurice White, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And if I recall correctly, Earth, Wind, and Fire is the very group that came up with the song "That's the Way of the World."
It-
I'd like everybody to know that what we do, what Tony's going to do today, and what I have the privilege of doing, what we do on the campus at Dominguez Hills, is we try to prepare people for the way of the world. And sometimes it's a tough road, but if we seek our highest objectives, as fortunately Tony and I get to do with art, the truth then is that the way of the world really is pretty cool. It's pretty smooth road. So I want every if anybody wants to get truth from me, just know that what we are here to present, both in terms of her visual art, the musical art, and frankly, if I may say so, what we offer at Cal State Dominguez Hills is we prepare you for the road of life. And if you come to us and you reach out to your own art and your deepest inner self, that road is going to be a good, cool road.
We love it. We love hearing that. So now let's see if we can't get started on this journey where we collaborate with art and music to bring together the musical stylings and the artistic renderings of Tony Scott and Charles Dickerson. Wow. That was just pretty doggone phenomenal.
Thank you.
Both the music as well as just the artistic rendering. So we've got to be able to help our audience, because we have, faculty, staff, students, external folk, just unpack what it is that we've seen. So let's take a look at that. As I just catch my breath, I'm like, I've never seen something like that before. So this was kind of an idea we started out with, trying to put music to just an artistic rendering, but that's pretty phenomenal. So, so as we think about both the content domain, which is what we're painting, and the process dynamic around creating art, what will the content of this piece reveal to the audience of the pieces that you've done?
Well, I'd say, it's more about the process as it is versus the end result. So, like the live painting, the idea of performing this live to see how layers are built up. The idea of going to a concert and listening and being there in person and witnessing, the magic of the music and the variations of instruments and, collectively how everything comes together. So I think when you look at the paintings, what you see are layers relating to, the instruments, the sound, and you see the building up, the how things are juxtaposed and so forth. So rather than just seeing the end result of a painting that you may see in a gallery or in a museum, in this performance and in this collaboration, there is a direct response, the creation response, the color response. So there's a dance between the two mediums.
The dance. And Charles, what about you?
Well, man, first of all, I just want to say, too bad Mr. Gershwin is not alive to see what he inspired today. I mean, doggone, especially that first, forgive me, Tony, you're talking about the process. Forgive me, but I was really enthralled by not just the process, but particularly that end result. You started that first piece, that first canvas, with that deeper blue, and how appropriate. We were playing Rhapsody in Blue, and my dear, you created a rhapsody. And then you went to the second canvas and you created a lighter color of blue, which I thought was really cool. And then you went to the third canvas with the greens and the yellows. Oh man, that was tremendous work. Thank you for the privilege of doing that with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It almost fit. I think I'm like you, Charles. It felt like almost an immersion where an artist says, look, ain't no wading in this water. We're going to jump right into the deep end of the pool, right into the deep blue. And then we'll let you kind of slowly swim out and wade out and walk out into the light that then is the revelation of what these outcomes were. That was just phenomenal. Wow.
Way to put it. Yeah.
So let me stay with the process dynamic for a minute, Tony, because you've talked about that. In this case, painting to the musical stylings of Professor Dickerson and the CSUDH Orchestra, they impact your work and the outcomes in ways that are just interesting. So stylistically, help inform us who are your audience today. What's going through your mind and your heart and your spirit as you are rendering the art?
Well, first and foremost, it is the relationship with Inner City Youth Orchestra and Maestro Charles Dickerson. The connection, it ran deeper than just the beauty of the Rhapsody in Blue. It was a cultural connection. It was an understanding and awareness of the youth that were playing in the years that they spent cultivating their talents. And so, it's a layered experience. It's not only the music, but it's the substance, it's the foundation in which all of this grew out of. And I just want to mention, Dr. Parham, this piece really pulled me out of my comfort zone. I think I had about 50 studies on this. So, earlier Charles mentioned, giving it our best. And, my father asked me at the end of this, he says, well, how do you feel about it? I said, well, Dad, it wasn't the place that I'm most comfortable, but I love the challenge and I gave it my best. And I think giving your best at whatever you do is the highest that you can give to yourself and to those around you. Back to the process, Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue has so many transitions that it's exciting. There's a fast pace, there's a slow pace. So I wanted to respond, and that's why I had three canvases to the transitions, the nuances, and also how the orchestra is positioned. So each canvas represented to me the left side of the orchestra, the right side of the orchestra, the middle part of the orchestra. The brushes were the baton of the conductor. So there were just levels. I mean, you can go deep into why the shade of blue and cobalt blue and deep blue and this, that, and the other. But all of that was set. I believe that there is a psychological effect that is imparted from music, and that colors also can reflect and be indicative of sound. It's basically, I guess, to sum it up.
No, that's superb. Professor Dickerson, jump in here. What was it like? Just
Well,
to conduct that and to see Tony do that work.
Well, you see, I have to share this with you. Rhapsody in Blue is what we call a concerto. Really, it is based on the piano being the soloist, and so I was thinking all the time in my mind as we were doing this that here Tony was the soloist. Yeah, the pianist is in there playing in terms of that music, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to be the accompaniment to what it was that she did, and so we really kind of felt as though like, yeah. You can sit back and listen to Rhapsody in Blue all day by itself, but to have this unique opportunity to merge it with this other entirely different art form just gave us another reason to be excited about it and to play it. Hopefully, play it in such a way that it encouraged the soloist, Miss Tony, to do what she did. And well, if I might say so, she did a heck of a job, and I hope it's based on the inspiration she got from the orchestra.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First and foremost.
She certainly jumped to it. So before we get into the second piece of this and the second set of canvases, I can't help but really go back to our students and the teachable moments that are important there, because I think each of you have a couple of teachable moments. So what are the teachable moments thus far in this lecture that you'd like to give to our students? So let me start with you, Tony, first.
Well, I'd say that, as you face, challenges, don't be afraid, don't be afraid to fail, because through failure, you can win. Don't be afraid of the fear, because where there's fear, there's an opportunity for faith. I would say, give it your best. And if you need assistance, then, there's resources for that. Basically, it's whatever the challenges, rise, and if you don't have the tools, find those tools. I spent a lot of time really looking at the sheet music of Rhapsody and just thinking about all the nuances and different instruments playing it, and watching Charles conduct the orchestra. So to the students, I'd say reach beyond, don't be afraid, move forward and climb that mountain.
And feel free to step outside your comfort zone, it sounds like you told them too. So
without a doubt.
Even when you don't have presidents pushing you to do that. So I thank you for honoring me with doing that, Tony.
I thank you. I felt like I was in school this whole quarter. Really took me to places that I had never experienced with music, and then an understanding of really looking at it and listening closely and understanding the structure of it. So I thank you for this. There were times where I'm like, oh, why? But overall, I'm just really grateful. It's been a joy.
Yeah, and again, I want to thank both Kenya and Anna for really helping us get to that space. Charles, what about you? What lessons do you think are important for students in this first part?
Sir, when you are given the melody of life, then speak up and play the melody and take the lead. When you are given the harmony of life, sit back and be the support system that helps our entire community be better. And today we sought to be much more of a sit back and be the support system that helped to create the entire musical and artistic experience that Tony was developing for us on the campus. Now, on the canvas, I will say that at the very beginning of Rhapsody in Blue, you had that clarinet come in all by himself. Okay, well, he's the leader, and he should take the lead there. Speak up. Take your responsibility and handle your responsibility. But also, you have a duty and responsibility to contribute to the harmony of life, to the harmony of the paint, the harmony of the art. And if you can do that in just as excellent a way as you take the lead, then you're a real contributor to the betterment of society.
Yeah, and not lost on this, and we'll get to this, I think, in our second element, but I can't help but as a psychologist to look at just the symbolism that's here, because as we think about both the deep melanin quotient that exists not only with you two as artists, but from the deep color that we started out with in the deep blue, and coming in about how that deep melanin then begins to spread around the entire canvas that is the world, and begin to really create just the artistic renderings that are in fact this beautiful thing we call life and humanity. And that certainly is reflected in what you've done. Wow, what a good way to start off. So let's see now if we can't get into the second part of our artistic renderings, and pause this, and then we'll be back with our discussion shortly. Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, I continue to just be, wow, just enthralled and so impressed with what I've seen. So let me further the discussion. So much of what goes misunderstood in African culture occurs because of our inability to understand symbolism. And so much of what emerges out of that African and African descent people occurs in the language of symbolism, much as you have argued, Tony, and asserted that African culture has influenced certainly Western art. And so in the painting you have produced this evening, are there symbolic representations that are reflected in the colors, in the shapes, in the angles, and even in the positioning of the abstract images on the canvas itself? What's the symbolism there?
Well, the symbolism is more intuitive and also very much genetic. I would say, you know, the red is fire, it's rivers, it's history, it's movement, it's passion. The blue is the waters, it's the you know, the heart. The yellow is the sun. So when I think about, you know, African artwork, that it's not representational, it's exaggerated, it's work that's created for a higher purpose than just, you know, an object to put on your table. It's something that that's communicated in homage to the spirit, homage to the ancestors. And as I look at, you know, and created the pieces, that was very much in my mind as I thought about, you know, my indigenous heritage as well, the rivers that we've crossed, the moons that have passed, you know, the oceans that we've crossed. So at every level, there is inherently a genetic connection that is just built in. And with the African art specifically, it is, you know, the higher goal is the spirituality as opposed to the product.
Makes sense. And Charles, what about for you in terms of symbolism?
Well, thank you, sir. You know, this whole piece, the Beethoven Fifth, the first four notes, da 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 da. Many musicologists have tried to share with us that this was Beethoven talking to us about destiny, knocking on the door, knock, 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 knock. Like it's a very, and you'll notice in a minor mode, bum, 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 which implies that there's going to be something very, very hard and harsh about the road we're about to travel through that music. But he ends it with joy. He ends it with this big bombastic yum, bum, bum, this big positive major mode. I think we can draw from this lessons of life. We at times might have to work, what we might start down these roads of destiny that might seem to us to be harsh and hard roads. But if we stick to the process and stick to the end, we're going to end up with joy. There will be joy in the morning, and it's exhibited in that music and in Tony's art.
Indeed, it reminds me even of some of, if we had to go to our R&B roots, of Frankie Beverly, who talked about joy and pain, sunshine.
That's right,
rain,
man.
all of us, I think, have danced to over time. But it also, in a more intellectual way, it reminds me of the intellectual stylings of my good friend Cornel West, who says that in life, much like you're saying, Professor Dickerson, that there will always be instances of unjustified suffering, unmerited pain, and undeserved harm. The question is not, does stuff happen to you in life, but rather, how do you sustain some movement and momentum in the face of that adversity that you're confronting? And that's what it feels like you're saying to us this afternoon.
Well, sounds like what you're saying to us too, Mr. President.
I'm just conduit with y'all's energy flow.
You're preaching a little bit, man. You're preaching a little bit now.
So as we think about, Tony, the multicultural nature of your identity, which I want to help you unpack for those who haven't really read your bio or really examined your work online. But the multicultural nature of your identity anchors the essence of your character as an artist. And so in the renderings that you have produced, how do elements of your mixed cultural heritage emerge to demand expression in this work? Or do they lie more dormant, waiting for another opportunity to be expressed?
Well, they're very active. You know, I think a lot of, you know, when I created the work, it was like I said, from a very intuitive place. But as I, returned to the work after it was completed, I saw the symbols just play out. So I think, in many ways, it's, the actual, history and aspects of my culture is just so embedded in me genetically that it's just played out in the images that you see. And then in retrospect, I'm able to analyze it and see, well, I can see how, the passion of my African roots, the meaning of, the sun to my indigenous culture. So there's just a lot of, just embedded genetic responses to it. And that's it's exciting for me afterward to see, well, what was produced just by, trusting in intuition and being led by that. I just also want to say that the color spectrum of this piece really wanted to impart a psychological impact, and I do that with particularly a lot of images that are dealing with social injustice. The slave ship that I have that's in blue. So I realize the impact of color and how that can be a psychological lift or something that takes a person to another road. So the colors, the bright colors, their primary colors are the basics, and they're colors that we see in every part of our lives. And I hope that people would walk away with feeling uplifted just by the healing that's inherently built into color.
Yeah, the healing that is inherently built into culture. Students and even professors, I hope you are taking notes from this, because this is really just a phenomenal lesson I think that we are getting this afternoon. So Professor Dickerson, let me go to you. As we think about your own sense of identity, describe for us elements of your identity and how does that manifest itself in your work as a conductor and musician?
This is a very, very complex issue, Mr. President. And part of the reason why is because both of my parents are African American. As far as I can trace back, my roots are in African American life. And yet, much of what I do in terms of orchestral work is playing the music of dead white men from Europe. European masters. And if you look at my skin tone, you know that there has to have been some mixture somewhere. And I have no idea within my own family dynamic where all that took place. And gosh, we're in a moment right now where fortunately, nationwide, we're starting to perhaps give a little bit more credence and acceptability to us making sure that those of us with darker skin are treated with more fairness and equity within this society. Well, heck, although believe it or not, there were even some of the composers of yesteryear from Europe who were actually involved in the slave trade. My hope and my desire is that we can continue to meld the various genres of music. Take the genres that African Americans have been primarily responsible for jazz, for hip hop, for rhythm and blues, and to meld them with what we know from the European masters, and be able to create a great and wonderful world. As our boy Louis Armstrong would have said, it's a wonderful world, and music, I think, can take us beyond just the celebration of the European masters or just the celebration of Michael Jackson, but let's pull them all together. And we can be a great, great people if we'll just acknowledge and love one another and put all this stuff together. Music, life, art, man, it's a good life.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter Kenya would remind me, this is what we do as a people. So I'm delighted by that. But even as I'm reminded, when we think about life and navigating through life, and I think about both Tony, your renderings, and Charles, your conducting in musical orchestra this afternoon, I'm thinking about three kind of cultural dispositions that are important lessons for our students to be able to learn, because part of it is improvisation.
Oh, yeah.
Part of what I've seen this afternoon is transcendence, which means when things are just that way, brothers on the corner have an expression, it's like, it just be like that sometimes. You got to just rise above it and keep moving past where you are in the moment to get to that space, but also transformation. So when we think about improvisation, transcendence, and transformation, those cultural dispositions are not just key to people, from African descent, but are connected to people, whether you are white, black, blue, brown, or purple, whatever your humanity is. Those are elements that you want to be able to employ. And certainly those are things that each of you have been able to employ in your work this afternoon. That's just phenomenal. So we can't get out of here without really looking at lessons for our students and our campus. And so, Professor Dickerson, we are blessed to have you as part of our faculty, of course. And so if there were 3 lessons, so, I'm going back into the classroom, Professor, I was on about, okay, what are the 3 things you want to know? So if there are 3 lessons that students should take away from the demonstrations this evening, what would they be? So Professor Dickerson, let me start with you. What are the 3 lessons you want our audience to take away this afternoon?
Number 1, in all that you do, pursue excellence. Number 2, in all that you do, you can achieve excellence. And number 3, in all that you do, you already are excellent. So take what you can from what we provide, even on our humble campus of Dominguez Hills. Meld it with what you know from your lifelong experience. Meld it with what you've learned today from watching Tony Scott put colors on that campus, and be a better person as a result of it.
Excellent. Tony, what 3 lessons would you provide to our audience as takeaways from the pieces you've done and rendered this afternoon?
I would say, don't shy away from a challenge. Press through and, absorb all that you need to help you excel past that challenge. And, to be, proud of what you produce. I mean, give it your best. And I think, again, with your best, you're going to automatically move yourself forward. So be committed, study, don't be afraid, and, jump into it. Like I said, I created 50 studies, and when it came to painting, I just threw them all out the window and, challenge myself with something new. So just, trust that that what you've learned is still with you, and just, take that confidence and move forward and get it done and be the best that you can at it.
Important lessons for our audience. And my final question before we kind of wrap up with some dramatic interpretation. I'm kind of channeling in the moment the energy of kind of the ancient ancestors who built the pyramids and the temples and the tombs that still stand today after thousands and thousands of years. But I know the formula for the ancient Kemetic people was about excellence in preparation and construction on one hand, and an aspiration to harmonize with divine intent on the other. Share with us real quick. So let me go to Professor Dickerson first. What is it, and describe for us some of the preparation that allowed you to arrive at this space and time? Like, what does it take to get to where you are? Because there's some students who are going to say, I want to be like that when I grow up. And I try to tell students, your job is not to be like us. Your job is to take our stuff and take it to a whole different level.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
But what was your preparation, and what got you to this place as a lesson for our students?
On a very practical level, Mr. President, do it every day. Do it every single day. If you're a writer, write something every day. If you're a thinker of something deep, think something deep every day. If you're a musician and you want to do music, you need to do it every single day. If you're an artist, as Tony is, you need to create art every single day. And finally, I'd say you also need to make an acknowledgement to the greater powers that be that influence your life every single day. Do it, whatever you do. I think the Bible says, whatever your hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. Do it every single day. And the more you do it every day, the better you will get. And the better you get, then we can do exactly what you said, Mr. President. We can loft our students upon our shoulders and let them see higher heights than we have ever seen.
Producing excellence will bring you opportunity. I believe that. Tony, what about you? What kind of construction and preparation did it take to become the artist that you are today and that we've revealed for this audience?
Well, you know, initially it was just, you know, having the faith that I could, you know, travel this road. And, you know, my first mentor, Avery Clayton, just seeing another artist of color who was, you know, fully involved in a practice was so validating to me. So I say on some level, you know, find your heroes and with those heroes, you know, draw inspiration to help, you know, drive you forward. And with that, you know, do study, you know, learn as much as you can about it. Yeah, I came back to, you know, wanting, completed my master's in fine art years, you know, after, you know, my beginning of the practice as I continue to grow and continue to stretch yourself. And in preparation, I worked every day. I think it's been like at least 3 months or 2 months with, you know, learning as much as I could about music, learning as much as I could about, you know, the impact of color and then color and music. So prepare and study all aspects, you know, to be able to take that as, you know, as the orchestra played. Once you have the tools, then you can really play the song. So I would say cultivate the foundation. So with that foundation, then you can be expressive and be free without, you know, overthinking, you know, what is it that I'm producing? Just let it flow.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So I want to, as we get ready to close out this distinguished lecture, provide in the most sincere and authentic form of thanks and appreciation and really profound gratitude to you both on behalf of my wife and our First Lady, Davida Hopkins Parham, and myself, and the entire 17,700 students, our illustrious faculty, and our committed staff of this campus, and all the external stakeholders who have a stake in seeing this campus transform. Because what we have witnessed today is pretty innovative. I've not been a part of an orchestra and artist kind of doing this collaboration, and what was revealed today and the lessons I think that you two have taught have been pretty phenomenal. I want to also thank Dean Braisley, Professor Devin Suno, both tremendous assets for the campus, as well as all the folk who are hidden, but their efforts are much appreciated. Our ceremonies and event team and our technical staff who have made it possible for us to be in these particular spaces. And to those of you, I think, who have witnessed another presidential distinguished lecture, your California State University, Dominguez Hills should be the place where all of these issues become the topics of critical discourse and analysis.
Yes.
We seek with this presidential distinguished lecture not to follow the leader, but to set the curve and the standard on what it ought to be. And when you have colleagues and friends like the artist Tony Scott and musician, the maestro, Charles Dickerson, and the support of gifts from the Peyton Foundation and others, you can't possibly go wrong. So as we close out this program, let us now think about, the time-lapse video that you're about to see. And if we had to consolidate all of what you've seen into a few quick seconds, let me provide a thank you for being with us this afternoon. We appreciate you, and we invite you to stay tuned for our next distinguished lecture from your California State University, Dominguez Hills. On behalf of all of us, I'm Dr. Thomas Parham, your president. Take care and God bless. That was just phenomenal.